Hey, welcome back to the Exo18 Leadership Podcast. My name is Ed Ivy, and we look forward to spending the next few moments with you. I'm joined here today in our amazing studio with high fives. There we go. With the amazing Christy Ivy.
The girl side of the table.
The girl side of the table. The amazing Christy Ivy and Kelly Sherpy. And we're excited that they're here with us. And we're also just looking forward in the next few weeks. We've got some amazing guests that are going to be joining us. We're going to be talking about some really good things, some great topics. So we encourage you to tune in, check it out every single week. And also be sure and check out the blog that is released as well that goes along with each corresponding episode. So here we are, season 1. We talked about last week, inaugural season. Season 1, episode number 5.
I don't know. Is inaugural season, is that like a sports thing?
Oh, it's our podcast thing now, though, too.
Oh, but y'all constantly make sports comments that I don't understand.
We're a big fan of sports analogies.
I think so. And I'm like, what is happening?
Okay. And that's a great lead in because today we want to talk about effective team building.
Effective team building.
And how we need everybody represented on a team.
Effective team building.
Absolutely.
Yes. And Kelly, I want to start with you as we kind of jump into this topic a little bit. You're a sports junkie. I mean,
it's true.
It's true. It's true. Today, your whole life has revolved around Jesus and sports.
Oh, wow.
That is an accurate statement.
Oh my gosh,
that's
pretty
accurate
incredible.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Kelly, you were a K-State volleyball player, all regional.
Is he getting it right, Kelly?
He is.
Galore. I'm sure there are numerous titles that are associated with this that I know that I won't get them all right.
Right.
But went on from playing at K-State to playing professionally as well. So not just
I bet you were like a big deal.
Once upon a time. I feel like I can say that now because I'm like a has-been, but I'm like, once upon a time.
You were a big deal now. You are a big deal. I'm a big deal too.
You are a big deal. Yes, you are.
In my mind.
So Kelly, you moved and transitioned from D1 sports to professional sports. And so when we talk about team building and the analogies associated with that, there's probably nobody at this table that gets it any better than you do. Coaching and, you worked in the athletic department at K-State. And it's been your world for so long. So you have that part of you, but then there's the part of you that has been an amazing, not just entrepreneur, but also an amazing pastor. You've pastored in the local church for a number of years, so you understand leadership.
And I would say a pretty large.
Yeah. Pretty significant church. Yeah, small little church of about 30,000 people.
Saying.
They're struggling. They need a little help. But, Kelly was part of a large team within that organization and wore numerous hats. So Kelly knows about team building. And so, Kelly, when we talk about effective team building, talk to me about that just in general. Just give me I know we're going to get into some specifics here, but just give us the Kelly Sherpy kind of broad stroke of team building.
The broad stroke. Well, if I'm giving you the broad stroke, I'm just going to say team building is the most critical thing that you can do. If you are leading a team or an organization of any size, of any capacity, this is the most critical piece for what you're doing and the effectiveness and the impact that you're going to have. I am like such a proponent of effective team building and getting the right people in the right spots and creating a culture of cohesion and alignment and chemistry and all those things. Because I think so we're coming off of, again, like my biggest world is volleyball because I was a volleyball player. And so we're just coming off of the NCAA tournament, right? So that just happened a couple of weeks ago here in December of 2022. And so we're watching the elite teams participate, right? Yeah. And you get to a certain level and it is tangible to watch the culture and the leadership and the chemistry evolve. And that is inevitably the one thing that comes down to winning championships. It is, you can be big and physical and talented, but if that piece isn't there, that if you don't have an effective team where everybody knows that they're contributing, right?
Yeah.
Even the people that are on the bench, the ones that are redshirting, the ones that are never seeing time on the court, to the ones that are captaining and leading and carrying the biggest weight. All across the spectrum, you have to have that effective team cohesion and chemistry if you want to be a champion.
So
and
you're saying you can't do it alone?
you cannot do it alone. You cannot do it alone.
How does that start, Kelly? I mean, you still coach volleyball now.
I do.
I mean, even private lessons, do all that kind of stuff. So how does that start?
I think it starts with leadership, but it doesn't always have to be leadership from the top down. I'm like, if you identify yourself as a leader, which if you're participating in a team of any kind, you're leading on some level, right? Whether you think you are or you're not. But there's always an element that you can bring. And I think self-leadership isn't talked about enough.
Oh, wow.
But also about, what you're contributing to the team. I think we've all heard.
I'm sorry. Let me just interrupt you real quick.
Yeah.
And I just know I messed your whole train of thought up. But when you said that self-leadership, talk about that just for a couple of moments. Because, it came out and we flew right by it.
We could easily fly right by that. But I think too often people are looking for leadership to come from the top down, and not. So they're looking for someone to kind of like, I hate to see like spoon feed them, but tell them what to do and how to act and whether or not to initiate or whatever that is. But I think self-leadership is all about stewarding the gift that you have inside of you, right? And so whether that gift is a tangible skill like volleyball or football or being a creative or, like leading worship, whatever that is, but there's also that aspect of stewarding the gift that you have in the season that you're in the place where you're planted.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so taking that seriously and asking yourself and asking the Lord what you can bring to the table, what your purpose is in being there, because that organization may actually just need they may need you to lead up. They may need you to lead sideways. They may need you to initiate or to bring new perspectives or new ideas. But if you're always waiting for leadership to come from the top down, you're going to be really frustrated.
Yeah. Kelly, when you said that, something just sparked in me, because as we engage with leaders and pastors around the country, this is a challenge. Mm-hmm. This is a massive, massive challenge that pastors are having, because what you're talking about right now, there are pastors that are waving hankies in their cars listening to this, and they're like, "Ooh, preach on that a little bit,"
right?
Because there is an expectation that now comes from staff, pastors, not everywhere, but it's part of the culture. We talked about culture in our last episode, but there's a prevailing attitude of, well, I just need to hear from the top. I just need somebody to tell me. But that is so different than kind of how a lot of us grew up in ministry, because there was a self-leadership that we had.
Called initiative.
Right?
Grit.
Called grit. Yeah, those are some other great words. That our desires and our expectations always exceeded. We put a greater accountability on ourselves than even those that led us within the organization. And so
when you mean that, you mean you set higher goals for yourself
the goals
than
that
even
I always
the goals
had.
the organization set for you.
The goals that I always had were so much greater than what anybody ever put on me. And I think that's what's lacking today. And that is a self-leadership thing. That's an aspect, because the thing I hear pastors just saying is, I just need them to do it. And sometimes they can't describe what it is. They're like, and what I hear them saying is, I need them to self-lead themselves. I need them to be self-leaders, take initiative, have grit.
While aligning, we want to be clear, aligning with organizations' mission and values. Right.
And
submitted under leadership, but there still has to be self-leadership.
Taking initiative and self-leadership. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
maybe
I think
we just need to do a whole podcast on that.
I think that would be great for us to talk about. Yeah.
But I think that's so good. And I think at the end of the day, it's who are you accountable to? And you can be frustrated in an organization, but if you are submitted to what God is wanting you to do in the season where you're planted, then and you have put it in your heart that ultimately you are going to answer to Him, then it eliminates all the excuses. right? It
Well,
eliminates
see,
all the excuses.
That's kind of what you just touched on. Is
Mhm.
it does eliminate all of the excuses.
It does. And I think I hear, and maybe this is also because I have teenagers who are like growing into young adults, and we're in that phase of like hands-off parenting, and we're, you know, like we're launching kids, right? Like we're launching young adults. And so there's this transition of like, well, so-and-so didn't do it for me or didn't do their end of I'm like, but did you follow up? Did you initiate? Did you keep pushing? Like, you can't just say, well, so-and-so didn't do their end of the deal, so it's not my fault.
Right.
And it may not be, but at the end of the day, something's not getting accomplished.
And it impacts the entire organization.
And it does, right? And so I'm experiencing that on a very minuscule level with again, with my kids and launching, you know, trying to launch effective, healthy adults into functioning adults into society that don't have mom and dad around to help them make all the, you know, the critical decisions or make things happen. They have to make it happen themselves. But I see this so often just in work culture, and, you know, in and of itself is that thing. Well, so-and-so didn't do that, and so it's not my fault. Like, it may not be your fault, but at the end of the day, like, have the ownership to go, it has to get done.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it has to get done. And whether or not I'm reporting to my boss, but at the end of the day, I'm like, God, are you happy with what I've done? Right? Like, was I effective with the tools and the resources and the abilities that you gave me? It begins to eliminate some of those excuses of just, you know, a lack of accountability, lack of personal accountability. Yeah, well, I'm not a big fan of excuses, if you can tell.
No, but that's why you were a big deal. Just saying. I don't know.
A very big deal.
You know, how do you get to be a big deal if you just are full of excuses? I don't know.
You never will.
I don't think so. I don't think it'll happen. But so what happens? So you guys have kind of talked about team and the importance of team, the value of team, and you kind of started touching a little bit on when every team player isn't, you know, really carrying the ball, like, you know, and doing their part. So what are some challenges you guys have seen that we have seen when we're stepping into a situation where we're not seeing an effective team in operation?
You want me to jump in?
Jump in, yeah.
Well, I think one of the things that I've seen and done, I probably could share all the things that I've done wrong.
Well, yeah,
but
that's like parenting. You know, you say, I don't want to give any parenting advice until my children are grown.
You know what you see a lot of times are in obviously we work in the church world a lot, in nonprofit world a lot, and often we see, you know, leaders that hire people like themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that is a deterrent when it comes to building an effective team, you know, to just hire people like you. One of the tools that we use when we're doing assessments and when we're doing our strategic growth plan, our 2-day workshop with churches.
That's pretty
and
amazing.
leaders.
Just saying.
That is. It is very amazing. It is a big deal.
I mean, really, deal. Just saying.
It is a big deal.
It's a big deal.
And highly, you know, effective.
We have data. We have data that shows it's a big deal.
So anyway, but you know, one of the tools that we use is from the Patterson Center, the Thinking Wavelength, that just helps, you know,
one
people
of my favorites.
see. It's a free tool resource that really just helps you see kind of your working, quote unquote, working personality.
Yeah.
And when we go through that exercise, it's interesting to just see how often, you know, everybody's just,
they'll be missing team players.
Yeah. And everybody's kind of clumped together in the same arena because everybody is the same.
Right.
And they have, you know, kind of this broken team, these broken pieces. And it's because, and I've done it. You want to hire people, you know, I want to hire people that are charismatic and, you know, man, they're a great leader. They love to play golf. I know that shouldn't be a, you know, requirement, but, you know, and so you're looking for people that you want to connect with and not
on
necessarily.
A chemistry. Have good
chemistry is important.
Right.
And chemistry. And I'm sure we'll talk about that. I mean, because, you know, three of the, you know, when you're hiring, I mean, what are the three biggies? Character, chemistry, and competency.
Right.
So you have to have those three things. So, you know, chemistry is important, But it all works together. But Kelly, talk about that a little bit about
Yeah.
It's kind of like having a team of all, and I don't know positions.
Yeah.
So I would butcher that. But if you had like only 3 positions, but there were multiple people playing those 3 positions.
It would be fun to have Christy just try to describe a sports analogy.
Oh,
It would.
There'd be a lot of words.
There would be a lot of words.
And maybe some hands.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Kelly.
So if I'm going to piggyback on that sports analogy, so I was a middle blocker, and if there was only a team full of middle blockers, we wouldn't pass the ball. We would never actually get set because nothing would happen. Right. And so I think it's easily, we do the same thing. Cause again, I think like attracts like, what you're talking about, Ed. And so we are naturally attracted towards people who are a little bit more like us, who think like us, that it's easy to connect with, but it's really easy to miss the places where we're not super strong in. And so this exercise that Ed has talked about, the thinking wavelength that we love to use from the Patterson Center, again, it's a free tool that's available to use. I'd highly recommend it if you're leading a team of any kind. But I think this is where we see these aha revelations happen when you can actually see your team plotted on paper.
Like we've seen it for ourselves.
Are staring you back in the face
for our own organization.
Yeah. As a matter of fact.
Well,
Christy, why don't you share?
If I can't share.
Because it's not a sports analogy.
Right.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh, thank goodness.
I just teed you up.
What? No, I was kidding.
I'm sorry. I had to.
What?
I had to.
Fastball down the middle.
Okay. Yeah. So I love this tool. And I love it so much. We had our own strategic workshop with our team at Exo18, and we mapped out everybody on this chart, on the thinking wavelength. So right prior to our workshop, we had everybody take the assessment, and then we were able to plot out everybody's results. And it was so interesting because we knew that there was something that wasn't fully clicking on our team. Now, we had chemistry. It wasn't necessarily a chemistry issue. It was not a competency issue, or a challenge, maybe I should say. But there just wasn't something clicking. And when we plotted everyone, I feel the pain of this one. We plotted everyone on the chart, and I was the only one down in the area of basically where the people actually get the work done.
The executors.
The executors.
I'm like, hold on a second. I mean, that felt a little
There were
offensive.
a lot of big idea people, and there was one person down here called me that was, hey, make this happen, make this happen, make this happen. And so what happened was I was feeling earlier, Kelly, in a different podcast, and I would encourage everybody to go back and listen to 4 on chemistry, or how we were talking about teams. At podcast 4. But I began to feel that tension that you were referring to in podcast 4. And because not one person can make everything happen.
Right.
And actually, I'm not really completely down on that end. I'm more in the middle. And so when you are operating outside of your gift mix or outside of your sweet spot, you do begin to feel a lot of unresolved resentment.
Right.
Do y'all like that word? And so
basically Christy hated all of us.
No, I didn't hate anyone.
I'm just kidding.
But
She's you keep coming up with stuff and I have to do it.
And so then what happens is it was bottlenecking progress.
Right.
And actually we've seen that before. We've seen where there have been a lot of big idea people.
Right.
And there hasn't been anyone in the middle, because there needs to be people in the middle that can translate to the people that are the task people. Because if you have big idea people and then just task people and there's no one communicating in the middle, that's going to be a challenge as well. Right. So we felt the pain of that, and then we were able to make some changes. Yeah. And I want to say that kind of led us into some, not tough conversations, but direct conversations. And we had to be willing to get the right people in the right positions.
Yeah, and we had hired somebody. We had hired
Right.
somebody on our team to work with us, and embarrassing to say, but we had not had them go through the exercise ourselves.
Goodness.
Like this is what we do.
Oh my gosh.
This
But I
is
think
what
it's
we
important.
do.
But
Okay,
I will
all
say
right.
that's how we learned.
I know I think it's important to point out that you can't always just take people at face value for what they say.
For what they say. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh,
that's
Kelly.
true.
Because this person also communicated that they were
high fives. This
right?
is a high five.
Yeah, and I think some people don't
They're maybe not as
not
completely
as aware,
self-aware. Yes.
not as aware of where their sweet spot lies or where their gifting lies, and they think that they can do a job. But what Christy pointed out is so important is that you can do it for a short amount of time.
Preach,
but
I'm
if
waving
that
the hand.
you're waving that hanky, wave it, girl. But you can't live there. Like
Right.
you can do it for a short amount of time, but you cannot live there. And if you try, you will die.
There'll be
It will
unresolved resentment for
there will be
yourself,
unresolved
for other people.
I was going to say it will suck your soul out of you, but
Oh,
that is
no.
accurate. Yeah.
Yeah.
There will be.
Yeah, and it just, I mean, that moment helped us understand
The
even
importance,
in our
how
organization as
critical.
we're helping people. Like, yeah, we as Exo18,
Right.
as a strategic growth firm, we have to have the right components.
We needed another
ourselves.
person
we needed
Right.
in that
somebody in
range.
that range that could
Yeah.
help us execute.
So we had to have those tough conversations,
Yeah.
We did.
make those hard choices.
Mhm.
But then guess what happened? We had somebody take that assessment
Uh-huh.
and we got the right fit. And it's been amazing.
And
for
I think
us.
what's important here is that when we got the right fit
Mhm.
in the right seat, we all felt the lift from that.
We sure
like
did.
this is what we were missing.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think sometimes what can happen in organizations and especially in church culture is that we just think, because I think this also used to be kind of an older leadership mindset of just get people on the bus. And then you
Right.
can figure out their
We like
seat
them,
on the
they're
bus
great.
later.
Right.
But when people are outside of their fit
Mm.
and their gift and it just creates frustration. And like Christy said, unresolved resentment. We're not setting people up for success.
Right.
We're actually hindering the organization's
Mhm.
progress. And
Yeah.
Hold on. I want to say something that a very wise leader told me. I was making some hires for my area of oversight, and a very wise leader said to me, Christy, don't hire for the person, hire for the organization, hire for the benefit of the organization. And that wise leader was Ed. But oh my goodness,
high five
he's
across
over
the
here.
table for Ed.
Ah.
He's like, I'm a genius.
But
I'm a big
it really
deal.
helped me. It was something I had
Cool
to
Ed.
consider to not hire for chemistry or
Mhm.
competency, but what was going to be the best hire for the organization.
Mhm.
Yeah, and we see this when we glance over org charts and flow charts and different things like that. And sometimes they're a mess because
Or maybe they don't have them yet.
don't
yeah,
exist.
and because I've got friends in these places, but I don't know where to put them, and
Right.
I can't get the right structure that I need. I can't build the right team because I've got because I've got people that I'm relationally connected to, and so even when we're doing that with flow charts and org charts and helping organizations, we're like, build it. Let's build this for the organization
Right.
first. Then we can plug in
Or have
as
those
necessary, but let's be able to at
conversations.
least see where
Yeah.
we are and know
Mhm.
what we need
Right.
to be able to accomplish instead
Right.
of just trying to piecemeal it all together.
Well, I think what you just talked about, Ed, I think is so critical. And I think as I've worked with more and more churches and organizations, I continue to be surprised by the number that we work with that do not have any of that in place.
Any
So,
like org charts.
org charts,
Mhm.
job descriptions.
Right.
And a lot of it is that, like they're on the cusp of getting to that point where they need to be scalable. And so there's a grace when you're kind of in that startup small church space for some of that to ebb and flow a little bit. But that you get to a certain point where you have outpunted your coverage there, right?
Yeah.
And it no longer works.
And things become really murky.
They do.
And people really don't know. They're like, what do you want me to do?
Right.
And it's just too vague.
It is. And, it just, it gets to a point where clarity needs to happen. And so, job descriptions, org charts, flows of communication and accountability and reporting, like those are all pretty critical pieces to scalability and honestly, an effective team building.
And I
right?
would say those are some of the things that we excel at. And
Yeah.
the people on our team excel at being able able to help you do, because I get it. The pastor part of it, there's an expectation that you should be doing it, or the ministry part, you should be doing that. Right. And you're like, I don't know how to do this, and I don't want to do it.
Right.
That's where, we want to be able to come alongside of you and help you do that. And so I know we've got some great application that's going to be coming out on the blog that we have. That we're getting ready to post.
That's putting pressure on me about the blogs.
Yes,
I'm the writer.
You're the writer. How to create a
great.
How to create a effective team, and how to build an effective team. So you can do it. And but Kelly, thanks for sharing your insight, and Christy for sharing today. And we have an amazing team. Like I said, we've got some great people that are going to be joining us here in the next few episodes. We're going to have a great time. Continue to tune in each week as we release a new episode every week. And check us out on Exo18.com. We have a free organizational assessment on there that we would love for you to take. And also feel free to jump on the contact us page, and we'd love to be able to,
have a conversation.
Connect with you. Exo18 strategy on Instagram, and Exo18 on Facebook. So on the gram. So we love you guys. Appreciate you. Thanks for listening, and we'll connect again next week. God bless.